North of the sprawling giant of Canada's largest metropolis, Toronto, amid the rich farmlands of south-central Ontario, there once were a group of people who built a temple to peace. Our journey begins there, at a place in time. If only Upper Canada could experience some of the former glory of Israel, what greatness she might discover. There would be music, pageantry, and color, and, in the end, the ultimate blessing of a complete peace and harmony with God. So wrote David Wilson. Located 40 kilometers north of downtown Toronto, the Sharon Temple is both a monument and a testament to the dreams and ideals of the religious sect known as the Children of Peace. Over the years, the temple itself has been often misunderstood, as were the people who built it, including its founder, David Wilson. Who were the Children of Peace? Why did they attempt to build a new Jerusalem in the wilds of Upper Canada? And who was David Wilson? Wilson strongly believed that Jesus Christ was a man, and that his spirit was God, and his spirit can be found in all of us. Wilson was discouraged by the divisions within Christianity. He sought to unify all true believers into one church. Increasingly, he saw this one church to be a reincarnation of the Temple of Solomon, built in ancient Jerusalem. 2 meeting houses were to be eventually built for Sunday worship. And a glorious temple was to be erected for worship on special Saturdays, 15 times a year. The temple's design was to be based on Solomon's temple, as described in the Old Testament, 1 Kings chapter 6. The truth is, there is very little physical similarity between the two structures, but many symbolic references. In claiming they were rebuilding Solomon's temple, the Children of Peace, in essence, were affirming that they too were moved by the same spirit as Solomon, as they sought to rebuild the kingdom of God on earth. Music during religious service was one of the features which distinguished the Children of Peace from other Christian groups, especially the Quakers, who prohibited music in their services. For the Children of Peace, music was a central part of worship. The temple's band would play from the second story to allow their inspired music to filter down to the worshipers below. Surrounded by these heavenly sounds and the symbols of his and his fellow believers, David Wilson's vision became a reality. In the 1820s, a spirit of political reform was sweeping through Upper Canada. One prominent reform leader, William Lyon Mackenzie, became a friend of David Wilson, for they shared a populist disdain for merchants, priests, and aristocratic government. Late in 1837, Mackenzie led his followers in open rebellion. Wilson sympathized with the objectives of political reform, but opposed the violent means they employed. The community was split by the conflict. Several members of the Children of Peace, including Wilson's sons, were implicated in the uprising and were jailed. It was becoming increasingly difficult to sustain Wilson's vision of a community devoted to peace. After the rebellion of 1837, the Children of Peace changed the name of their community from Hope to Sharon, to symbolize the plain in the wilderness from which arose song of courage, brotherly love, and devotion, by which they sought to heal their own discord. As war and upheaval continued throughout the world in the name of enterprise, religion, and nationalism, Wilson and his Children of Peace maintained their utopian way of life, revolving around their beloved temple. The temple was used 15 times a year for special services. On the last Saturday of each month, the Children of Peace met for an alms service to collect money for the poor. After this service, there was always a feast to which outsiders were welcomed. From such fundraising, they built the first shelter for the poor in the province. In 1866, David Wilson died. By the time that Wilson's oldest son, John David Wilson, took over his father's ministry, the community was drifting apart, and John lacked his father's charisma to inspire the congregation. Many left the Children of Peace and joined other churches. In 1889, the remaining few members held their last service in the temple. From that point on, the temple, which was erected in the spirit of Solomon to unify the religions, was largely abandoned and left to the elements. Eventually, the buildings of the Children of Peace fell into dangerous disrepair and were demolished. But the temple was saved from demolition in 1917 by the York Pioneer and Historical Society, which operated it as a museum until 1991. Today, it is owned and operated by the Sharon Temple Museum Society. The Sharon Temple is a celebration of the diversity of Canada's society. Nurtured by freedom, the Children of Peace found a home and left as a legacy for future generations a belief in peace and harmony and a wonderful remnant of their faith, the Sharon Temple.